With the release of Season 3 in Black Ops Cold War, the old saga repeats itself yet again. Multiplayer gets an influx of new content while zombies kind of gets overlooked. Now, I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but a new Outbreak map is very insignificant in comparison to everything multiplayer is getting, which is kind of a shame because with the release of Outbreak, it seemed like zombies had finally started to gain some momentum, which might have resulted in a lot of people, including myself, to have high expectations going into Season 3, which inevitably set us up for a bit of a disappointment. While getting some new Outbreak and Onslaught content is good, it pales in comparison to getting a new Zombies map, which I think I speak for all of us when I say that that is what we expected to get. However, Season 3 has not been all bad. We got some new weapons, we got the PPSH, which serves as the ultimate nostalgia boner, but the most important piece of content that we got is the new field upgrade called Toxic Growth. The description for it reads, summon a deadly growth of thorns in front of you. Enemies moving through it are slowed by 50% and take toxic damage. Tier 1 doubles the health of the growth. Tier 2 increases maximum charges to 2. Tier 3 doubles the damage enemies take while moving through the growth. Tier 4 increases maximum charges to 3, and with Tier 5, enemies killed by the growth explode, dealing toxic damage to nearby enemies and slow them by 50% for 3 seconds. Now let's get into some details. This field upgrade takes 30 kills to charge for 1 activation. For all 3 activations, it takes 90 kills. If you have Speed Cola, it reduces that amount by 20%, so you have to get 24 kills for 1 activation and 72 kills for 3 activations. You can stack them, meaning you can place all 3 of them at the same time. However, they have to be placed in different locations. You cannot stack them on top of each other in the exact same spot. They can be pretty close to one another, but they cannot be on top of each other. There's no time limit for the thorns. Once you place them, as long as no enemies run through them, they will stay there forever. But every person in game can only place 3 at a time, so you can't place 3 of them, recharge, and place another one. If you do that, the oldest one will automatically disintegrate. So the question is, other than that, what makes the thorns disappear? And to answer that question, we're gonna have to talk about damage. Toxic Growth, when planted, can kill exactly 20 zombies. It doesn't matter what round you're on, it will always kill 20 zombies. And that's because the thorns don't deal a set amount of damage. Instead, they take a percentage of a zombie's health. So when a zombie is trapped in it, they take damage in a span of ticks. If you have it upgraded till tier 3, which doubles its damage, with the first tick, it takes 40% of a zombie's health. The second tick also takes 40%, and the third tick will take the remaining 20% of that zombie's health, which in turn kills the zombie. So the overall damage output against a zombie is 100%. If you don't have the third tier upgrade, the overall damage output against the zombie is 50%. This field upgrade gives you a really good advantage in that it makes dealing with the armored zombies a lot easier. And that's because the armored zombies don't really show any extra resistance or endurance towards the damage. Toxic Growth treats the armored zombies the same as regular zombies. They die in the same amount of time that it takes to kill a regular zombie. So overall, it's really good against the zombies. But on the other hand, when it comes to dealing with the boss zombies, this is probably the worst field upgrade. The damage output against the bosses varies, and I'm still doing some testing on that to get the exact numbers, but even if we know the exact damage output, it's not gonna make a difference because it's pretty easy to tell that it basically does nothing against the bosses. It does minimum damage at best. Because it deals toxic damage, it does a little extra damage against the mimics, which can actually be increased with elemental pop, but even then, it just doesn't do enough to make a significant difference. It's still useful against the mimics because it does slow them down, and considering how fast the mimics are, it does help a little bit. But then again, if you want to slow down the mimics, you can just use the Cryo Freeze ammo mod, which does wonders in that area. But for the most part, the bosses, they just kind of run through it taking minimal damage. This is not the kind of field upgrade you use to melt the boss zombies with. Another detail that I think is very important to know about this field upgrade is that once you plant the Toxic Growth, you can start killing zombies to recharge it again. However, there are a couple of things that you need to remember. The zombies that are killed by the thorns, those kills are not going to count towards recharging your toxic growth. Now, when I first began testing this, I thought, well, I could exploit this field upgrade to just get recharge after recharge. And the way I thought I was going to do that was that I was going to plant one toxic growth, wait for the zombies to get stuck in the thorns, and then kill them and recharge my field upgrade. And it looks like Treyarch has made it so that that is not a possibility, because killing the zombies that are stuck in the thorns will not count towards charging your field upgrade. However, you can still kind of use that mechanic to your advantage. In order for the thorns to go away, you have to kill 20 zombies with them. I don't know how boss zombies and special enemies factor into this yet, but I do know that it takes 20 zombie kills for the thorns to disappear. So a zombie could get stuck in it, get slowed down, and take damage, but as long as you kill the zombie with your gun, you're gonna be able to maintain your toxic growth. So that kill is not gonna count towards the 20 kills that's gonna make the toxic growth go away. So in that sense, it's still useful. This field upgrade is very interesting, and the reason why is because in order to utilize it the best, you have to be really smart with where you place the thorns, and you have to actually develop a strategy revolving around the placement of the thorns. To get to a high round in a game of zombies, you can either camp or you can train. Some field upgrades like the Ring of Fire, for example, are really good for camping. Others, like the Energy Mine, are good for training. Toxic growth can be used for both strategies. However, it doesn't work as well with training. It still works, it's still fun to try it out, because whether it's Die Maschine or Firebase Z, throughout the map, there are a lot of doorways and corridors that you can utilize to kill a horde of zombies with toxic growth. You can train the zombies outside, then you can plant your toxic growth on one of the doorways and have the zombies run straight through said doorway and into the toxic growth, which is gonna give you an easy, quick 20 kills no matter what round you're on. The problem with that strategy is that if you have speed cola, it takes 24 kills to recharge toxic growth. So after you get those 20 kills, which is not even a full horde, you still have to get 24 kills on your own, which is a full horde, in order to recharge your toxic growth. And given the fact that it doesn't do well at all against the boss zombies, it makes it a little more unreliable in training. Another reason why it's not as effective in training is that when you're running around and you're training, chances are at some point you're gonna get a little clumsy, a little careless, and you're gonna get cornered, and for the most part, all the other field upgrades do something to get you out of that corner. Healing Aura, Ether Shroud, Frost Blast, and Frenzied Guard are perfect for that kind of situation. Even Ring of Fire and Energy Mine could still get you out. They do something. It's not like they're completely obsolete in that situation. If you ever find yourself cornered and trapped and you're about to go down, Toxic Growth is the worst field upgrade to have. It's just not gonna help you then, because the zombies can still hit you when they're stuck, and the bosses will just walk through it with ease. And that's why I don't really recommend this field upgrade for training. But camping is an entirely different story. When it comes to camping strategies, this field upgrade is so much fun. It's a very interesting field upgrade because there are different ways you can camp with it. For example, you can just keep it really simple. You can kill zombies, charge your field upgrade, plant the toxic growth right in front of you, and kind of use it as a barrier between yourself and the zombies. Then you can either just use that barrier to slow down and damage the zombies, and you can then finish them off with a headshot, or you can just leave that barrier and let it kill the zombies. You can also use it to slow down the zombies so you can reload, or you can use it in combination with different ammo mods, since slowing the zombies down will partially help with the cooldown as well. But I think the best way to use it is basically spawn controlling. And what I mean by that is when you're camping in the Colonel's office in Firebase Z, you have zombies coming at you from two different directions. One is the major spawn point, which is in front of you, so you're gonna have a lot of zombies coming at you from that direction. The other one is the minor spawn point, which is the window on the side, and you're not gonna have as many enemies spawning there. In my opinion, the best way to use Toxic Growth is by planting one right in front of the minor spawn point. Now let me explain why we do that. The whole purpose of doing this is to basically reduce our spawn points to only one, so you can put your entire focus on one direction. And some of you might think, well, why don't we block the major spawn points so that way we have even less to deal with? Toxic Growth only lasts for 20 kills, and it takes 24 kills to recharge. If you want to make camping easier for yourself, you need to maintain a decent cycle of charging your field upgrade to a point where you minimize the time that you have without the field upgrade as much as possible. Basically, you don't ever want to run out and go without your field upgrade. So your plan is to activate Toxic Growth and immediately start on trying to replace it. You want to recharge it as fast as possible so you don't run out. If you block the major spawn point with it, since there are a lot of zombies coming that way, your Toxic Growth is not gonna last. And since there are less zombies coming out of the window, you have less zombies to kill with your weapons. So now you have less time and less zombies to kill to get your charge back. And it's just not gonna work. Instead, you plant it at the window, it's gonna block that spawn point so you don't have to worry about it. And since there aren't that many zombies coming out of it at the same time, it's gonna give you enough time to get your charge back and restart the cycle. Now, if you really want to be safe, and if you have the Reiki, you can take advantage of the extra charges that you have and plant one right in front of you or maybe behind you just in case things get a little too crazy and you might have to backpedal and get behind that sort of barrier to keep you safe and give you enough time to recover. Now, I know I used Firebase Z as an example, but this strategy actually works a little better in Die Maschine, and that's only because in Firebase Z, there are a lot of different enemy types that spawn in, and Toxic Growth just doesn't do well against them at all. The Mimics and the Manglers, they spawn in that window all the time, and Toxic Growth does very little to stop them, so it's definitely much harder to pull this off in Firebase Z. In Die Maschine, you go up to the roof and block the minor spawn point to your left and kill everything that's in front of you with your weapons. It's still problematic when the Megaton shows up. I think for that it's probably good to have a death machine to help deal with the Megaton. In Firebase Z, a death machine is not really gonna do that much because the Mimics and the Manglers, they spawn in way too frequently, and the only way to deal with them coming out of that window is to listen to the sound cue of them spawning in. Every enemy type in this game gives a sound cue when they spawn in, so if you're careful and you listen, you can stop them with your Reiki before they even get a chance to jump out of the window. I've been using this strategy for a few days now, and it's a lot of fun. The one little annoying thing about this field upgrade is that when you want to activate it and place the thorns, the game is a little awkward with the placement. Sometimes it tells you you can't place it at a certain spot, like if you're too close to a wall or any other object really, the game kind of rejects it, and it's a little bit annoying, especially if you're in the middle of a hectic situation on a relatively higher round where you have to deal with sprinters. It just gets annoying, and I really hope they fix that. Toxic Growth is also useful in other situations. For example, it's very useful during the assault rounds in Firebase Z. You can block the main portals the zombies come out of, and they just kind of run straight into it and they all die, which makes everything super easy. Also in Outbreak, there are a variety of different situations where this field upgrade becomes very useful, but at the same time, there are a lot of situations where it isn't useful. It all depends on the objective. If you're doing an objective like defend or holdout where you're kind of stationary and you're forced to defend against an incoming horde, then Toxic Growth is gonna do wonders for you. But if you have an objective like escort or retrieve where you have to keep moving and you have to get away from the zombies, then this field upgrade is just not gonna help you. The reason why I find this field upgrade so interesting is because it's really good in very specific situations that you have to set up, which subjectively to me makes it a lot of fun. I like the fact that this field upgrade is opening up new avenues and is giving me a new way to play the game, but objectively it's really not that practical. And it's not that reliable, because you're gonna want a field upgrade that can be useful in as many different circumstances as possible. Frenzied Guard is the perfect example of that. You can't go wrong with it. It helps you no matter where you are. If you're doing the Easter egg, if you're going for high rounds, if you're playing Outbreak, it's useful in pretty much every situation. But it's also kind of boring because at the end of the day, it's just something that gives you armor and makes you invincible for 15 seconds. And you don't really have to do anything with it. It's safe, it's very practical, but it's not that much fun to use. It's not very engaging. Field upgrades like Frost Blast and Toxic Growth might not be the absolute best ones, but they're really fun because they require you to do things and plan ahead and not just sit there and mindlessly get headshots as you slowly overdose on Doritos and G Fuel. Overall, I think Toxic Growth is a good field upgrade that is really fun to use. If you're going into a really intense situation like a main Easter egg boss fight, I would recommend you go with something like Ring of Fire or Frenzied Guard instead. But if you're playing casually and you plan on camping, or if you're doing the main Easter egg with your friends, I would recommend Toxic Growth just because of how fun it is and how good it is at crowd control and blocking certain areas or certain spawn points. It's not the best field upgrade, but you're definitely gonna have a lot of fun with it. That is gonna do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments section down below what you think of Toxic Growth. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.